For decades, this was a shadow war, but not anymore. It's just burst right into the open. In this explainer, we're going to break down this unprecedented direct conflict between Iran and Israel, the absolutely massive counteroffensive, and, what it could all mean for the rest of the world. I mean, just picture the scene. Air raid sirens are wailing, people are being rushed in and out of shelters, you've got explosions just echoing across major cities. This was the moment a long-simmering conflict boiled over into a direct, full-scale military fight. Okay, so let's dive right in. What you're looking at here, it's not just some regional skirmish. No, this is a huge shift in how these countries operate. Iran launched this incredibly coordinated missile and drone attack, a retaliatory strike on a scale that put the entire region, frankly, on high alert. All right, so first up, let's talk about Iran's opening move. We're going to break down exactly what they were targeting and the just sheer scale of this attack. So Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, they announced this new wave of their operation, right? And they were aiming right for central Tel Aviv with these advanced Kyber missiles. But the scope was way wider than just that. They claimed strikes on the Marin radar base, which is a supercritical surveillance hub in northern Israel, and they even went after U.S. diplomatic missions in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. They were casting a wide net. And drone warfare was a massive part of this. The Israeli military said they intercepted over 100 Iranian drones in just the first few days. That number, it really gives you a sense of the sheer volume of this aerial assault. So you might be asking, how did the U.S. and Israel respond? Well, they responded with a huge joint counteroffensive, and they gave it a code name that pretty much says it all: Operation Epic Fury. And look, this was not just a proportional response. U.S. Central Command called it an overwhelming campaign. They said the first 24 hours alone were nearly double the scale of the famous shock and awe strikes that kicked off the Iraq War back in 2003. So we're talking about a whole other level here. The intensity was just staggering. In less than 100 hours, U.S. and Israeli forces hit nearly 2,000 targets inside Iran. They used more than 2,000 munitions to do it. The strikes were basically running 24/7, from, as they said, the seabed to space, and even in cyberspace. And this counteroffensive had a serious impact on Iran's conventional military power. I mean, for example, U.S. forces claim to have destroyed 17 Iranian naval ships, which really hurts Iran's ability to operate at sea. Now, what's so fascinating here is just how direct the strategy was. Admiral Brad Cooper from U.S. Central Command, he basically boiled this whole complex multi-domain operation down to one very clear goal: systematically find and eliminate every single Iranian asset that could possibly pose a threat. Simple as that. Okay, so let's move beyond the battlefield for a minute, because this conflict seems to be creating immense pressure on Iran's leadership, and it's raising some pretty serious questions about the regime's stability and, well, its control. To really get what's happening, you have to understand the IRGC. These guys aren't just a military unit, no, they are a powerful political and economic force, and their whole job is to preserve the regime's ideology. And this really shows the kind of internal chaos we're talking about. Reports started coming out that a strike actually hit the Leadership Council as they were voting to elect a successor to the Ayatollah. I mean, just think about that for a second. That is a direct attack on the actual constitutional process of succession. And the person they reportedly elected? The Ayatollah's own son. And according to analyst David M. Lippman, he's a hardliner with really deep ties to the IRGC, the very group that would, of course, want to keep its authoritarian grip on the country and its huge economic network. And here's a really crucial sign that the chain of command might be fracturing. An Iranian official reportedly admitted that some of the retaliatory strikes weren't centrally directed at all. They were based on standing orders issued before the war even started. That's basically an admission that the leadership might have lost full control. Okay, so let's zoom out and look at the ripple effects. This regional conflict has the potential to cause some major global economic disruption. And it all comes down to one critical waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. So why does a conflict happening thousands of miles away matter to you? Well, the answer is in the global energy market. The stability of this region is directly, and I mean directly, connected to the price you pay at the gas pump. So here's how it works. It's kind of like a domino effect. Iran has tools like drones and anti-ship missiles, and they can use them to harass oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. This obviously scares away the insurers who back these massive shipments.
When you have fewer insured tankers willing to risk passing through, the global oil supply gets squeezed, and that inevitably means prices go up for everyone.
And the experts, they agree. Analyst David Lippman confirms that in the short term, a rise in oil and gas prices is pretty much unavoidable. Even with a crippled navy, Iran's remaining forces can still cause enough of a disruption to spook the global markets. So, where does this all lead? Well, with both sides burning through enormous amounts of military hardware, the conflict is shifting into a dangerous new phase, a war of attrition.
This isn't really about winning quick battles anymore. It's all about endurance. Both Iran and Israel are burning through their stockpiles of advanced weapons at an alarming rate. It's turning this whole conflict into a grim calculation of who can outlast the other. And both sides are facing some really critical shortages. For Israel, the issue of running low on those air defense interceptors is a known problem, and this war is just making it worse. And for Iran, well, the counteroffensive has been devastating to its offensive capabilities. Some reports are suggesting they could be down to just a few dozen missile launchers. And all of this leads to one final stark question. As both sides focus on just destroying the other's ability to fire back, it becomes this grim race against time. In a war of pure attrition, who runs out of weapons first?